Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Roster drama continues, and this time it's the Los Angeles Thieves heavily under the spotlight over the last 24 hours. Both Nastie and Kremp look to be on their way out of the team, and Ghosty's response definitely implies he has the keys to the kingdom. What team changes, if any, will he be looking to make? What options are actually out there on the table, especially given that Envoy certainly looks like he might be gearing up for a move? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Let's dive into as well a bit of drama on the ReeaL situation. So we saw yesterday, a couple of days ago now, rumours that ReeaL was leaving Cloud9. I'm pretty sure this is true. Things may change on this topic. The rumour at the time was, of course, as Zuma mentioned on stream, that he was going to be joining the Falcons, right? And that was going to be that move. Now that was rumoured. I'm not sure that's still happening. Well, we'll see a response from Falcons themselves here in a second saying that it's not happening. But look, Drazah was with that Subliners team for several years, and you would expect them probably to keep him on, right? I mean, Sender and ReeaL, maybe Sib will disagree on this, but and we'll talk about that slightly more later on today, on the chemistry, the culture, what they put together over there at the Subliners over the last few years that led to all the success that they've had, let's be real, over the last few titles. So it would be a surprise if they were to, you know, blow up that coaching setup with ReeaL and Sender. But look, it may come down to money at the end of the day. It may come down to Drazah looking for another opportunity or a better offer potentially elsewhere, because, you know, I think maybe they would have offered him a new contract, but maybe it wasn't enough compared to what Falcons are offering. Maybe the rumours are true that if they are trying to get Scrappy, they don't have infinite money to spend on the coaching staff as well. So there's a few interesting factors in play here, but actually the Falcons guys made it very clear, at least Grant Rousseau here from Falcons, that this ain't happening. So Zuma obviously said on stream that it was Falcons that he was going to be joining. Grant then says completely false. We have shown our roster: Xnid, Khalid, King of Body, and of course Roxas. That's their team of 4, and they coach in Luti. He says there's no truth to the idea that he's coming through. Anybody attaching themselves to Falcons within CDL is just trying to create noise for themselves. So you know, he's obviously popping off a little bit here. This tweet then gets deleted, which is why this is a screenshot, and then he puts up another tweet that says, because I guess he got a lot of, like, people were roasting him in the replies or something, right? And he says, apparently denying false rumours about our own team and org will lead to unsavoury messages being received. Ain't about that. It's a deleted tweet, but put simply, we shared our CDL roster and plans already, so we are leaving it at that. So very interesting situation for sure. And as we see from Jake Kell say, you know, he says there's no truth to the situation, and maybe we need to see JoeDeceives step it up. So these guys have a bit of a back and forth. Clearly there are things going on, but look, if ReeaL is leaving Cloud9 and it's not Falcons he's going to, well, where's he going to? And of course that is a pretty good question, right? There's some teams out there that would be, you know, in need of a new head coach potentially. I think FaZe, well, we'll see what FaZe do. There's been rumours for a long time that Crowder might, you know, do content creation full time or something. That's never quite fully happened. And really RJ, the sloth bear as he's known, but you know, RJ is in some ways more of a head coach than Crowder is, because RJ is there with the team like all the time. So I don't really think there's an opportunity necessarily on FaZe. OpTic, maybe they keep it as it is, maybe they get accuracy depending how things work. I think that's a possibility. You know, ReeaL could come in there, but it'd be interesting because Sender was with the OpTic camp before. They effectively let him go and he went to the Subliners, and we've seen what's happened there over the last couple of years, winning champs in 2023 for example. OpTic now did it this year, and you know, so I think OpTic are probably pretty set in stone. Toronto is a possibility, but then again with Toronto, they've had, you know, they've had lots of coaches, right? Joe Pinnington, Flux, obviously Marky B, who departed, and some orgs still need a coach. One that potentially could be interesting, of course, is Los Angeles Thieves, because those guys have Shane still, but JCap is gone, right? JCap decided to effectively resign from that head coaching role, wants to still coach, but wants to do so remotely, potentially for another team. So we'll see where that works out for Cap. But it does mean that a team like Thieves will be in need of another voice in that conversation, especially when they are looking to step up their game this season. I think that's pretty evident that Thieves are officially back. I also think it's great for the esports, because Thieves, ever since they came in, Cold War was obviously a bit of a shambles, but they still tried. They still had good players on the roster that season. Vanguard, of course, well, that was a phenomenal end of the season. Modern Warfare 2, they kept that great roster. still a bit up and down, but they did win an event that year. Then they bombed out at Champs, and then they ran out of money, basically. But the idea that Thieves are now kind of back in position to invest and, commit more resources to their team, because that's certainly what it seems like based on what we have seen on the last 24 hours or so. I think it's great for the space because it means that Thieves, again, are going to be, hopefully, a very competitive franchise. They were at the end of this year anyway with their roster, and now they're trying to go one step further because, if you've got OpTic, you've got FaZe, you've got Thieves, like 100 Thieves, right? You've got maybe Falcons if they start to spend big money. You've got Cloud9, you've got, Toronto as well, potentially still in that kind of ballpark, all committing resources. G2 are here in COD as well. Like, it does, hopefully we have a world where it's not just a 4-team or a 3-team league at some point, and lots of these other organizations can put together great rosters. But of course, there are only so many great players, and we saw this yesterday, Nastie having no Los Angeles Thieves in his bio, so, that says something. And in yesterday's video, ignore the kind of, screenshot here. I'm not maybe looking at, okay, whatever, Rabception, this is hella weird. I'm gonna zoom in real quick. So, Kremp says on his bio yesterday, this is from yesterday's video, he said, professional COD player for the Los Angeles Thieves, and now, if you look at his bio, it says this, professional COD player for nobody. So, like, I just try to be careful because there used to be, maybe there still is, a tool where you can see changes to people's Twitter bios and stuff like this, and I don't know if it still works. I always had problems getting it to work anyway, to be honest. But this, I can tell you for an absolute fact, that yesterday it said Los Angeles Thieves in here, today it does not say Los Angeles Thieves in here. So, well, I think we can pretty clearly say what's happened, right? And there's been some degree of discussion with Kremp and with Nastie to say, hey, we are going to be moving in a different direction. Now, what that direction is, that is a question, but it seems like they believe they can upgrade in both of these roles, and that apparently is what they are going to try and do. Ronnie as well kind of quote tweets this and implies that, yeah, this is going to be the case. And these are the changes that I would have expected, right? I mean, Ghosty weren't going to go anywhere unless FaZe were trying to get in, which they're not, and even if they were, Thieves might have let him go regardless. And then, of course, the JoeDeceives, situation, he's going to stay around, was great towards the end of the year. Nastie was phenomenal. I feel bad for Nastie getting dropped, really, right? Because I think he was great at the World Cup. Everyone knows that. But I guess the good news is, if there is something Nastie, like, he for sure should get a spot on another team. I think if you're a player like Beans, if you're a player like Nastie, certainly an organization like Toronto should have a hot eye on those guys. If they are losing Scrap Toronto, not losing him, if they're selling him, if they are not getting Sib, for example, like, those kind of AR positions, Nastie, Beans, those type of names should really be in that conversation, I think, with a team like Toronto. So I don't think that Nastie is necessarily going to be out of the league or on a particularly lower down team. I think there's definitely a possibility there. Showed up at the end of the season, and I still think is an incredibly talented player. Kremp absolutely has his moments too, but if we see over the course of the season, these are his overall numbers. His LAN numbers just not quite as solid, right? I will say the card does his numbers on LAN quite, a harsh bit of damage here, but actually if you look at the numbers, they're not too dissimilar. Kills per 10, damage per 10 in either of the respawn modes, or even, okay, Search and Destroy is a bit worse, but in the respawns, his numbers aren't that dissimilar to what he was doing online. It just seems to be that on LAN, many of his other SMG counterparts just play faster and get more kills and damage, so therefore he falls down the rankings here. But he has his moments, Kremp, but can you upgrade on Kremp? I think you can. Also, from a consistency point of view, I think you probably can. So, that seems to be what Thieves are thinking of doing. If they were to make a one-man change, I thought maybe Kremp was the most likely. With a two-man, for sure, that's going to be the case. So, will Kremp get other opportunities? I think yes. I mean, obviously, he was on Boston before as well. And there are not so many SMGs out there that, are able to be potentially quite impactful, and Kremp is most certainly one of those. And also brings a lot of energy to the team. So, this is a risk, of course, from the Los Angeles Thieves, making the changes they seem to be making. It is a risk because you're blowing up some great culture, some great chemistry that was formed towards the end of the season especially, and the results they had. But if there are upgrades on the table, you've got to have a look at the upgrades. Now, people are also saying that Envoy has removed Toronto from his bio. I'm not sure that's true. Like, you guys may correct me in the comments below, but I feel like Envoy's bio has been COD World Champion at Envoy for like a long time now. I don't know if Toronto is in there, really. I mean, he's got Toronto elsewhere in his bio as well. So, and he wasn't a COD World Champ for Toronto. He won it with Thieves. And maybe he's going to be back on Thieves. This is what Ghosty then puts out last night. So, we love a little anime gif here, right? But I did think this was quite interesting from Ghosty because it's almost like villainous on some level, right? He's kind of saying like, oh yeah, I'm pulling the string strings, as it were, behind the scenes over there at Thieves. So, you know, people are going to be like, oh, I can't believe it, tweet so disrespectful to Kremp, so disrespectful to Nastie or whatever. Look, we don't really know what this means, but we can certainly presume that it's something roster mania related, and that's why there have now been some rumours as to what exactly they are doing, or what potentially Ghosty is doing with the situation. Let's not forget, Nadeshot told Formal, hey, if you want to have the keys to this team, you're welcome to have them. And look, is it impossible that Formal comes in alongside Ghosty? No, it's just extremely unlikely, I would say. He's still got, like, I think, is it Formal not of that, like, Salt Lake City Halo event right now? And then there's the World Championship in Halo coming up. Like, there's lots of moving parts there that probably Thieves won't want to necessarily wait around for. So maybe instead of that being the case, Ghosty just, you know, has the keys and he can do what he chooses. And, you know, if Ghosty wants to be the player that he potentially can be in the future and achieve the success that he wants to, and the team has said, hey, Dan, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to try and make a couple of changes here? It would be pretty ruthless, but also it probably would be the right thing to do for Ghosty and the team to decide, okay, we're going to make a couple of changes. And that's when Parasite then comes in and says, how about Envoy and Sib to the Los Angeles Thieves? I think Envoy is absolutely going to go to one of either Thieves or Cloud9. I don't expect him to stay on Toronto, it's possible, but I think that as it stands, either Cloud9 will have enough money to get him, which would probably be Envoy's preferable destination, right? Because if they've got enough money to get Envoy in Cloud9, then they've probably also signed Scrappy too. So if you're Envoy and you're thinking, well, you know, do I go with Ghosty, JoeDeceives +1, or do I go with Scrap HyDra, like with Skyz or something, then, you know, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? So I think if Envoy is biding his time in this situation, if Cloud9 have the money to buy him out of his Toronto deal, he probably goes there. If they don't, if they've spent all their money getting Scrappy or whatever, then maybe the deal to Thieves makes the most sense, because also when Envoy returned to that Thieves organization where he had so much success, where, you know, the Dark Prince obviously was crowned, and I thought that was really cool after he was an OpTic and he was kind of meant to be the next Scump in many ways. That then became Shotzzy, let's be real, and then Envoy kind of went on to the dark side, as it were. It was a cool storyline, and him being back in that organization I think just makes an awful lot of sense. But if Envoy does go there for Kremp and it's Envoy JoeDeceives on the SMGs, Ghosty on the AR, then who's the other AR? And Sib is obviously available right now from Cloud9. So this, of all the options, seems to be one of the most likely, and it's a very compelling option at that, right? Ghosty, Sib on your ARs, Envoy, JoeDeceives on the SMGs. It's a pretty nice setup, I'm not gonna lie. You know, Ghosty and Sib, both fast players if they need to be. So, you know, there's options there, there's flexibility there. Would I take that roster over the roster they currently have? Yes. So I think that it's worth consideration. But of course, Toronto are still in the mix as well. What are they going to do? We know what they're doing, right? This is their modus operandi in the offseason. People have been asking, oh, why are they getting rid of Scrap, right? Like, why would they sell him? Well, they get money in return. I mean, they're doing the opposite of what Seattle Surge did, where they were offered big money for Pred, and they didn't sell him, and then they let him walk away for free. Not the best business decision I've ever seen. Toronto are saying, well, Scrappy's probably going to leave our org anyway at the end of the year to go to OpTic, or to Cloud9, or maybe even to FaZe. So let's just sell him now and pocket a big bag for him. And if, you know, we get a big bag for Scrap, that bag's going to pay for our entire team this season and balance the books a little bit better. So, you know, and they've obviously brought Scrap through the academy. They want to achieve success with Scrap. They have done that. Maybe they feel like it's time to cash in. And they're in the same position as all the other players as well. CleanX, Insight, Envoy, also up for grabs. So that's the real debate, what Toronto end up with. As I said earlier, I wouldn't be massively surprised if it's scrapped apart. Maybe Insight and CleanX end up staying in the ends, but you know, who really knows? And then maybe you could form somebody else around them, but you know, with the likes of a Nastie available, a Beans available, but also potentially a Sib, that becomes a pretty interesting conversation, right? So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Just one final thing, I have literally zero idea if this is true or not, but I just thought, you know, I'd mention it because it was semi-interesting at least. This guy put in the Zoomafia community that he got a DM that said, ReeaL and Sib are going to Toronto, and New York are going back for Priestahh because they tried for Scrappy and it's not worked, and Sender's going to be their only coach. Which, look, this would be a pretty wild timeline. I don't believe it necessarily, but look, time will tell. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.